Well, I'm standing in front of the where we keep all the animals, and also this is the little garden where we have currants. Um, like the red currants are first, and then black currants, and then gooseberries down at the end. And on the fence we have black berries, and along the bottom of the fence are strawberries. And in this front row up here are kale and lamb's quarters, and the kale's for the chickens and ducks, and the lamb's quarters are for us. And then behind me is the poultry yard, and it's where the ducks live, and the turkeys live back there, and the chickens live with the chicken coop. And then our rabbits are in there, and we'll go inside and take a closer look at everybody. Come on, kids. Come on out. We have to take turns in the chicken yard because our rooster fights with the Royal Palm turkey named Kingsley. So they take turns as to who's out in the big yard. And the same with the ducks. We've got 3 different groups of ducks that all like to fight with each other. So everybody just has to take turns coming out into the yard. And here are the rabbits, and those are baby rabbits. They're pure Californian, and let's see, when were they born? Like March 30th or 31st. And they got separated from their mom last week after Charlie built that cage. And they seem to be doing really fine. Not afraid of the chickens or anything. And then the parents are up above. We've got the doe and buck Californian, and then at the very end is the white New Zealand female also. These guys are so soft. Hey, Vic. Here's Blackberry. She's the mother of these 4 babies down here. She's a pure Californian, and she made it with her partner here, who's also a pure Californian. Look, Rooster. Well, these are Henny or Penny taking a dust bath. This is the poultry yard, and we fenced it in, probably in January, and there was a big cover crop in here of, green stuff for the chickens to eat, and it took them about 3 months to totally eat it all down. And what we have growing in here are pear trees. Like we have 9 different pear trees planted, different kinds, and eventually they'll be shady, and then the chickens can just run underneath it. We have enough fencing and poles to be able to fence in the whole bottom part of the field, and eventually then all the poultry will be able to run around down there too. But then we also have to fence in all the trees so that the chickens don't eat the trees until they get bigger. And behind that you see the real tall stuff behind the fence. That's the cover crop that's just about getting ready to get cut down. I'm waiting for the rye to start to flower, and as soon as that happens we can cut it all down and the rye won't regrow, and then we're going to plant corn and potatoes and squash in that little field over there. So now we're coming from the poultry yard, and we're coming over to the little edible food forest that's still pretty new. We planted these bush cherry trees last year, and we just this spring planted a peach tree there, and a peach tree back here, and then there's lots of strawberries all planted around, and there's a lot of yarrow is the green plant that's up in there. It's pretty thick, so I'll probably be digging a lot of that out and planting it around other fruit trees. And we have our little nettle patch over here that we've had two batches of nettles off of. It looks like it's ready to harvest again. And one of the batches went up to Sophia up to DC, and her sous chef made soup out of it, which was kind of cool. And then we've got our kiwi growing, and they're coming along better this year than last, although the frost kind of nipped them pretty bad. And we have a muscadine grape that's starting to get trained up on that wall over there. And then if Charlie can show it, how pretty the primrose looks back in here. Okay, our edible food forest is connected to our outdoor oven area and picnic table and stuff, so we can sit here and enjoy all the pretty stuff to look at while we're eating. This year, 2012, in March we had 3 weeks of 80-degree weather and no rain, and I thought it was really going to hurt stuff. But then we got a lot of rain and a lot of cold weather, including 2 frosts, like 29-degree type of weather. And it's just helped all these perennials just bloom and last for a really nice spring. We're experimenting with pomegranates, and so we got 3 different kind of pomegranates from Edible Landscaping, and Charlie tasted one of them, the Russian pomegranate, last December right off the bush, and it was just as good as what you can get from the grocery store. So we're kind of excited. Maybe we'll be growing our own pomegranates here. We've started planting our persimmon orchard. The first one is an Oriental persimmon, and there may be maybe 6 or 8 more different types of Oriental persimmons that we can get. And the next one is an American persimmon, and there'll be 3 more, so they'll go along the fence. And then it's planted right now in a big patch of cover crop. I'm trying to improve the soil. So as soon as the rye goes to flower, we'll cut it down and plant buckwheat in that area for the summer. Did it take you to cut this tree down? 3 weeks? Okay. This is, I'm standing by a wood pile Charlie created this spring. He cut down a red oak tree that had was a weird bend in it like this and wasn't growing right, and took him about 3 weeks to cut it down and split it all and bring it up here and turn it into a piece of art that will next winter probably heat us all winter. And then we saved a lot of little sticks and stuff from it, because I was reading a holistic orcharding book, and it said that you're supposed to mulch your fruit trees like 1/4 of it each year with this kind of stuff, because it breaks down and makes beneficial bacteria and fungus grow around for the fruit trees. So that's what this pile of stuff is for. This is our spring garden. This is 5 out of the 8 beds that we've got planted for springtime, and it's filled with, each row has like kale and cabbages and potatoes and peas, and broccoli, and turnips. And way down in bed number 5, I'm experimenting with carrots. I have 6 different kind of carrots, and got onions and beets. And with all this cool weather, they've just been doing great, except that the frost kind of bit the potatoes. By a volunteer mulberry. It's probably the biggest fruit tree we have on the property. Hopefully it'll taste good. And then this will be our summer garden. There's 6 beds here, and right now they're filled with cover crops. Again, I'm just waiting for the rye to flower, and then we'll cut them down and run it through the chipper shredder and put it right back on the bed so it's mulch. And I'll be planting tomatoes and peppers in these 5 beds. And this year we planted asparagus for the first time. So here's our asparagus bed, and some of the dirt that we pulled out that we made trenches. And if you bury some of it deep, like we did here, then this will come up later in the year or in the spring, and it's supposed to extend the asparagus season by a couple weeks, I guess. So anyway, that's what we're experimenting with here. So I'm standing by the weeping mulberry tree. We've named her Rosalie, and she actually has a lot of mulberries on her this year, so I guess we'll get to taste what she tastes like. We feed the birds all winter, and so it's just a real treat looking out the sliding glass doors and seeing all the different kind of birds that come to the feeder. It's just a real treat. And our irises and butterfly bush and peonies, and went up through rosemary and roses. And I don't know if you can see in the foreground, I've got 2 beds that have pretty much gone wild from last year. They're going to be summertime beds, and I have a lot of weeding to do. Yeah, good. Number 18 is a bed filled with perennial onions, and I still haven't figured out how to use them, so they just keep growing and getting thicker. That'll be interesting. Bed number 17 is filled with early Jersey Wakefield cabbage that I transplanted last week. And then beds 14, 15, and 16, where we plant our peanuts and sweet potatoes, again, is still filled with cover crops. It's crimson clover, Austrian peas, hairy vetch, and rye. And the bees just love it. The bees and butterflies think it's wonderful. This is where we planted figs. Let's see, I think there's 6 different kind of figs here in this row. And the first 3 were just doing beautifully, and then we hit that 20-degree night and it frosted the leaves off, but they're slowly coming back. And then down below that is another large area of cover crop that we're going to plant watermelons and cantaloupe in. And there's our one turkey named Thanksgiving. She would come down here and wander around in there and trample it down and make little nests and lay her egg in here. I was kind of sad because the cover crop got crumpled, but she was having so much fun being wild that we just couldn't resist. It was just neat seeing her out there. Okay, we're looking at the last, I think, 3 pear trees, and then we have 4 cherry trees, 2 sour cherry trees and 2 sweet cherry trees. And then down in front of the building down there, we have a little blueberry patch, but it's not real happy and we might end up moving it. And after that, we have our beehive. This year we caught 2 swarms, and within a day or 2 they flew away. They just didn't want to stay here. And then on farther, you'll see Charlie finished the pond. I guess we're going to have to line it with clay or something because it just doesn't hold water. And then behind the pond, you see these little green bushes down there. Those are the elderberries that my mom sent from Florida. And they're all doing nicely, although I think hers are a whole lot bigger than ours right now. excuse me, and they have blooms on them. Okay. Here's kind of an overview of how our place looks when you're standing on the south side of everything. Okay, here are some strawberries that are ripe. When it was 80 degrees there in March, strawberries started getting ripe in the beginning of April. But then when the cold weather came, they just kind of all just sat there, and they'd turn red on one side and then be white on the other. So we didn't pick them, and then the mockingbird found them and ate them. See, like how this is kind of white on this side and red on this side? That makes it not be very sweet. So I wouldn't eat it, but the mockingbird did. This is the other part of our spring garden. The spinach I planted from seed out here in the yard, and then the Swiss chard I started in the house, and we got peas, and then mixed lettuce behind the peas. The big Swiss chard down at the end were the only two plants that lived last summer, and they overwintered because we had such a mild winter, so we've got lots of Swiss chard off of them already. And then I have some bok choy down at the very end to make kimchi, and a big patch of thyme. This bed has yellow onions, and then the cabbage family plants, red cabbage, cauliflower, collards, and just normal green cabbage. I bought these starts from Foster's greenhouse, and it's real interesting. These plants, immediately the cabbage butterflies landed on them and started laying eggs and, you know, get cabbage worms on them. But the plants that I started in organic potting soil and fed maxi crop every week that I planted in the other beds on the other side of the yard there, they don't have any cabbage worm damage on them at all. I just thought that was kind of interesting. And then we got peas on the fence, and then turnips growing, and their bulbs are starting to form, so we'll probably be eating turnips in a couple weeks. This bed has lettuce in it, parsnips, radishes, broccoli that I got from Foster's, and also spinach plants that I got from Foster's. So I may start spinach in the house next spring from seed, because that worked out real good transplanting them. And then mustard and sage at the end. The broccoli, as soon as my broccoli is starting to produce, I'm going to pull this out and replace it with okra. And then in the very background is the solar cooker. Here are the muscadines that we planted last year, and they reached the top, and now we have to train them to go across. I guess we have to put up some chicken wire or wires or something and make the branches go across so that we'll have our little grape arbor here. This is the little protected area that we ate lettuce and arugula out of all winter long. And here are the roses that I rescued from the trailer park. At least they're still alive. They're a little happy. I have trouble sometimes with a fungus that gets on the leaves, but they're still hanging in and blooming every year and looking pretty. This is what the porch looks like, filled with tomatoes. The other porch has the peppers on it, an eggplant, and all these plants are just waiting for the cover crops to finish, and then they go in the ground. I know they're kind of tall, which I wish they weren't that tall, but usually I lay them down so about 1.5 feet is in the ground, and then it will grow extra roots, which helps when the ground is real dry, like in August.